Hey, what's going on, people? This is Keenan, and welcome to The Word, where we actually drop real sales knowledge in a fun, exciting, straight-in-your-face kind of way. Listen up, this is not your daddy's podcast. I am super pumped up to be introducing Rob Jeppsen from Xvoyant. My boy is a
What's up?
Yes, my boy is a coaching fanatic. Most of you know I am on the coaching train this year. Coaching is absolutely unequivocally the greatest revenue accelerating opportunity in 2017. If you're not capitalizing it, you are being left behind. So welcome, my boy Rob. What's going on, brother?
Keenan, thanks for having me on, dude. This is going to be epic. I can't wait to talk about what's going to be the most defensible competitive advantage all of the people watching are going to create this year. It's going to be awesome.
Sweet. So tell folks who don't know who you are, tell them about Xvoyant, tell them who you are, tell them why you're a badass, and tell us why you're not a badass.
Yeah, I'm a real easy story. I suck at most things, okay? But I'm good at the sales thing. Trying to keep up with you is what I'm trying to do, okay? And I've run some large companies. I've run some small ones, built and sold 3 companies, ran a large financial institution where I was hitting $3 billion a year, 50 sales teams, over 1,000 reps, okay? And the only way that we were able to win was by having this coaching thing that we're going to talk about today. The cool thing that I would throw out here is, the one thing that I'll say is I won 15 of the American Business Awards, the Stevie Awards, more than anybody else in the country on things like Coach of the Year, Sales Coaching Process of the Year, Sales Team of the Year. So what we're talking about today, I could contribute to a little bit. If it's outside of this, you don't want to listen to me, dude. I ain't nothing. So
all right. So we're on the same page, and the message to everybody listening, folks, is coaching matters. So this is really going to be for senior leaders, senior executives in the sales world. Look, let's not go outside of that, but we're going to stay inside the sales world. This is all about sales people development. So as we get into this, Rob, tell us, why do you think it's so important, and how did you sort of gravitate to this idea of coaching?
All right, so it doesn't really matter if you have a big team or a small team. You tell me what you see. You're working with a ton of companies too, Keenan. I'm seeing that companies, large and small, all have double-digit and sometimes triple-digit growth goals, but they have single-digit or flat headcount increase allotments, right? And so we want to grow, but we're not going to do it by hiring. One of my customers, we got to grow by 30%, but we're only hiring 4%. So how do you do that? The only way you do that is if you get more out of what you have, and that's code word for coaching. And I learned a long time ago, you can't hire your way to your success. You don't hire great coaches, but great sales teams, brother, you develop them. And that's what this is about.
All right, so I agree with you. We stumbled across that last year with one of my clients, and we didn't even realize that we had 30% growth and we're only growing at 4%. We just knew we weren't getting where we wanted to be, and we knew that there were some changes we needed to do, so we focused on the people element. So, you know, as I think you're aware, as a sales guy, we have what we call 4-strategy methodology, and that's strategy, structure, people, and process. So if you zero in on the people part, all you really have is either the right people, the right roles, new people, or coaching. It's not that robust. So I think you've nailed it. Right? So tell me.
I'll say one more thing. I'm going to say one more thing. If sales is arguably the most important role a company has, and you're going to have to argue real good to argue me out of that one, okay? That means the person who leads that sales team might be the most important hire we have, and how we structure. I love how you said it, role. Role's where I start always too. Understanding clearly what the role of that most important position is drives everything else.
Okay. All right, we're getting a little bit of audio feedback. Let me see here. Let me see. Where are you getting it from, everybody? Thanks for your patience. Brady, where are you getting it from? Me or Rob?
It looks like Rob, his audio is giving some feedback on your speakers, so if you turn your volume down, we should be good.
All right.
Got it.
Now, I think my volume. Is that better now, Keek? I mean, sorry, Brady.
Rob, you want to say something for me?
How's that? Sound better? Feedback
That's
on?
perfect.
Okay.
All right. So I was all fired up, all loud and whatnot over here. All right. So let's start with this. Define coaching, right? How would you define coaching? What is the really good definition of coaching?
That's maybe the most important question, Keenan. I'm glad you're starting with it because everybody has different definition. I'll tell you first what it's not. A lot of people think it's just consulting or services. Hey, we're going to get a coach to help you out, or it's what we do for the underperformers. Here's what I believe it is. I call coaching as the process of engineering intentional improvement, okay? How do you create intentional improvement? I believe there's 4 things that you have to do that. But it starts with, are you committed to intentional improvement? Not opportunistic improvement, not just work a little harder improvement. It's what are the things that are going to help us get where we want to go, because we're like Babe Ruth and we call our shot first.
So when you say intentional improvement, in Not Taught, my book, I have a section called deliberate learning.
Yeah,
right?
And I love that chapter.
Yeah, so I think it's what you're saying is, well, it's one thing that I learned accidentally. I went out and I sold something and I learned accidentally that you don't do this and don't do that, right? It's sort of like putting your hand on the stove. Ow, I just learned, don't do that again, right?
Don't do that again. Yep.
Yeah, don't do that again. That's accidental learning, right? Deliberate learning says, I recognize that I'm lacking something and I'm going to specifically go get it. So how do you build on that? You can do this intentional, not intentional learning, but intentional development or whatever. How do you do that?
So we identify in the sales environment, it's pretty easy how you can structure it. We say outcomes are driven by sales stages, because you and I both know we have to have a pretty well understood sales process, okay? Sales stages are driven by activities. Activities are fueled by skills. Skills are developed by resources, okay? And so we actually help people triage that. We say what outcomes match what stages are fueled by what activities are developed by these skills. So then we can get really simple, Keenan, and you can say, let's start with activities first to make sure that the person that we're working with has the right work ethic. Work ethic is, either you're going to have it or you're not, but it's the easiest place to coach. So the stars are making 20 calls and you're only making 5. Let's get you to 20 first. Okay, that's easy. That ain't nothing to that. That's easy. Okay. Then what happens is when they fix that work ethic down, now we see, are we getting the same yield from that activity that the others were? And if they aren't, then that means there's a skill that we have to work on. It might be targeting. It might be pre-call planning. It might be adding value before you get the product. There's a lot of things. That's why you want to know what skills match to what activities, if that makes sense. Okay? And after we get done with activities, then we can get to competencies. And competencies are going to be things like that number of new opportunity starts, average deal size, what's my win rate, what's my cycle time, what's my number of products or my percentage of the line that I'm able to sell, things like that. We can start matching activities into those, and those are going to be more complex. And finally, then we'll get into efficiencies. We'll start seeing where do my losses come from. The number one thing I see, Keenan, is salespeople do not want to learn from their losses. They want to only record their wins so they can get paid and look good in their history. You got to record your losses and say, where's the point that I lose? Because if I understand the activities and skills associated with the loss by stage, I can do a lot of cool things as a leader.
All right, so go through those again. I really like those. Outcomes, I think you said initiatives, those are awesome.
Okay, outcomes are driven by stages. Stages are driven by activities. Activities are fueled by skills, and skills are developed through resources that a company or a leader can bring to the table to help develop people. We call that the skill to success model.
Interesting. In that skills to success model, where do you think coaches should spend the most time?
It depends on where the greatest opportunities to level up are. So every single person is different. So if I have so the only place that I'll tell you that I really can say we always start, Keenan, is you can use tenure. If I got a new rep, we're going to start with activities every time. We just got to get them into a rhythm, right? Then after that, every rep's different. The reason, and you know this is one of the reasons why you're great. One of the reasons that sales training fails quite often is because they just have a canned approach for everyone. Mm-hmm. And that assumes that everyone has the same, I used to call it skill gap, and I hate to call it skill gap now because that puts that negative connotation on coaching. The third thing that we believe you have to do if you want a coaching culture is instead of focusing on skill gaps, we focus on what's the level up opportunity. I don't care if you're the star performer or the newest kid on the block. You all have different areas. And so that's why technology and great leadership, if you can really sit down and have a way of saying, here's what your next level looks like, and rather than guess for all 700 that they're all the same, that's why I refuse to answer and say, where do you always start? Unless it's a brand new rep, start with activities. After that, you have to be able to find where those level up opportunities are.
All right, I really like what you said here about whether you're a newbie or a seasoned executive or professional, everybody can use coaching. One of the things I hear a lot people struggle with is the idea that coaching in today's world, and we own the old school sales environment or culture for this, that they see it as big brother. They see it coaching isn't as coaching, but as big brother, 365 fucking days of performance reviews, right? So give us a way for the people listening who are the leaders how to coach and create a coaching culture that doesn't feel like big brother.
What's the number one thing every salesperson, well, not number one, but what's in every salesperson's top 3 of things they give a shit about?
Quota, money, and promotion.
My man, I gave you 3 guesses. The first 2 don't count. You got it on the first one, right? Okay. So if you can dollarize the value of a change, does that make sense? Can you dollarize it? So we use a simple formula. Number of deals in your pipeline multiplied by average deal size, multiplied by win rate, divided by length of the sales cycle. That's where you get lift, okay? And I don't care where you are. If we can say a 10% lift, if you change this by 10%, what's it worth to you? As soon as a rep feels like when I sit down, you and I are talking about one thing and one thing only, and that's the future and what it's worth to me, and they believe that you're going to stay there, then it changes. I'm going to give you a story, Keenan, and I think you'll dig this. I'm going to go back to the days of mythology, okay? In the Greek mythology, there's Medusa. And Medusa, what happens when you look at her? You remember?
Face turns to stone.
You turn to stone. She's beautiful. Her head's covered with snakes. But if we look at her, you're a dead man. True or false? Okay?
True.
So we hate to look at her. That's right. Now we go to Roman mythology. They got Janus. Janus was the greatest of their gods. And the reason that our Roman calendar is January is it's named after Janus. They brought him in the first month of the year, the best of everything they had. I'm the oldest son. My dad would have gladly volunteered me to Janus. I would have not made it past 8 years old, hoping that Janus would have given him something better than me, okay? So these people brought their kids and their money and the best of their flocks, hoping because he could see the future and create what he would see the past and create whatever future he wanted. So here's what I'm saying. Most coaching focuses on the past. When you look back, you look at Medusa, you turn to stone. It freezes people, your big brother, leave me the hell alone, let me go do my job, okay? If you can be a Janus kind of person and you look to the future and you make it as bright as you possibly can, now they look to you and they freely come and they freely give you the best of what they have, okay? And so what drives that is, are you Medusa or are you Janus? That's what you've got to ask yourself. Here's my rule of thumb, Keenan. When you have a coaching session, no more than 10% on the past. So if it's a 30-minute coaching session, that's 3 minutes, brother. 3 minutes, okay? If it's a 60-minute coaching session, it's 6. The rest of the time, where do we want to be? How are we changing the setting of our sales so this ship sails to the port we want to end up in? That's what it's about.
Oh, that was good. That was good. I love that. Hey, Brady, if you can tweet that out. Are you a Medusa or a Janus? Are you turning to stone or are you looking to the future? I mean,
that's right.
I love it. That is really good. All right, so I also buy into this idea where you're talking about, you only want to spend about 3 minutes on the past, or I think you 10% or whatever it was you said. Right?
Yeah, 10%.
So, but let's talk about that for a second, right? Do you have a methodology for that part of the coaching?
You mean the kind of the agenda or the anatomy of what makes a coaching call, or when we're talking about the past, what do you talk about?
Yeah, yes. You said only 10% on the past. Do you have a methodology that takes it through all of that, or is it just 10% on the past and the rest on the future?
No, I would say my rule of thumb, and it changes, obviously. As soon as you make a hard, fast rule, everybody can give you 5 reasons to break the rule, obviously, okay? But in general, you want to make sure I'm Janus, not Medusa. So my methodology is we start with where we are, and I ask them. Because here's the other thing. I'm going to give you three guesses, and the first 2 don't count. How often do salespeople need you to tell them where they are relative to goal?
Never.
Never. So why the hell are we
good
talking
ones, you'd be surprised. Every once in a while in my consulting, I'll do a discovery and say, where are you going? And they don't know. And I'm like, oh, boy. But anyways, yes.
That's a bigger problem. So that's a bigger problem then, right? That's a much bigger problem. So most of the time they know. And if they're killing it, then they want to have that 3 to 6 minutes to make sure that they know that you're aware of it and you're recognizing it and you value it. If they're not, they also know. And the best coaching cultures, you give them tools so they can self-assess and self-correct. Self-correct so you don't self-destruct. That's one of my rules. Be able to self-correct so you don't self-destruct. You want to be able to have that consistency. So remember I told you there's 4 things that lead to intentional improvement. The very first one is consistency. Consistency in the frequency of how often we talk, but also the consistency in what we're going to address. So if they know where we are, we want them to start with what's the plan to intentionally improve? What's your plan on changing it? That's not Big Brother now. Now, my clients start calling these sessions, instead of coaching, a 30-day strategic planning session. Everybody wants to do strategic shit, right? And so call it a 30-day plan. When they come, it's fair to say, okay, so we both know where you are. What's your plan? And if they look at you and say, I got nothing, then you're going to take a different kind of role. But hopefully they know what those drivers of success are. Now, the newer they are, the less they'll know. You want to create a culture, Keenan, where they have a good understanding, and when they bring that plan to you, you're tweaking it because you're leveling it up, But more important, the last law, the fourth thing about the four things to create intentional improvement, you got to collaborate instead of dictate. Janice, they felt like was in the game with them, okay? They were hiding from Medusa. My question to the leaders that are listening to you and I go back and forth right now is how in it are you? There's no place for ivory tower sales leadership. Get in the freaking game.
All right, so boy, you're just teeing up the segues like nobody's business. This is brilliant. All right, so I actually have a proprietary methodology here at a sales guy for coaching, right? And it's called observe, describe, prescribe, absorb, and apply. Okay, so the key, the very beginning of this is the observation element. Now, I adopted this and made it for sales from my experience as being a level 2 PSIA certified ski instructor for Vail, right? And
you're a badass.
Well, I don't know about that, but they didn't mess around. They taught, like, people have heard me say this a million times. When I went to get my level 1 took a day, it was nothing, whatever, I screwed off. My level 2 was no joke, and level 3 is no joke. And they make it really clear, and that's how I took this and I applied it to sales, and it's amazing. I want your opinion on this is you can't be a good ski instructor if you are unable to do what they call movement analysis. In other words, you have to be able to observe a skier and see what they're doing wrong and then convey that to them in a way that allows them to absorb it and apply it, right? So we need what's called observable moments. What are your thoughts?
I love that.
And talked about what you think of this idea of observable moments and then how sales leaders can find those, look for those, and make sure they have the right observable moments.
So I think that's your genius. I think it's brilliant, and I think that the analogy between you as a ski instructor to a coach is awesome. I love all kinds of sports analogies. I use basketball as one. But to answer your question, Keenan, I think that it's our ability to engineer observable moments. First is going to come by how big is your team. Obviously, too big of a team, it's hard to have more observable moments. Fair to say? And so that means you've got to have a way of prioritizing. So yeah, the first thing I like to do is say, how do I prioritize where I spend my time? And then we say, what part of the sales process? Now, I don't know what you found, but here's what I've learned, and here's what, like, some of the best data from CEB shows. The very best sales coaches spend their time in where they start. So you want to start in the right fishing holes, right, where the fish are. You want to be able to make sure you're talking to people that are good fit for your customer. And then the last place they help is in closing to make sure they close profitably and get all the business and not leave things on. The rest of the pursuit is less impactful as a coach. So if you're going to be creating observable moments and you're having to make sure that you're juggling your time the right way, my first piece of advice would be make sure you're spending it either on that top end of the funnel or at the very end, making sure that we're closing deals in a way that not only sets us up to have profitable success, but also sets us up that we can have recurring revenue come from them. That'd be my first. I'll pause on that one. Any thoughts about what I said on that one?
No, I like that. I like that. Because I think what you have is you're trying to get for the biggest bang of the buck, right? With that said, I think the middle of the pipeline is far too often ignored, and then they get to the end and they don't understand, how did I get here? And I'm like, well, because you should have taken a right 8 rights ago. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Truth. Fair.
So I really try to work with people to create observable moments all the way through. But that being said, if you are taxed, those are the two biggest returns. With that said, so before we go to the next one, what are some suggestions you have? Because I think people are really struggling with this. I believe that your product does it to a certain degree. I believe call listening does it to a certain degree. The old school ride-alongs did it.
Yep.
Where and what are your suggestions around tangible, real observable moments that you can recommend to people they can build into their coaching process to see what their salespeople are doing?
I'm an old school guy, Keenan. I love the new tech, but at the end of the day, I still think you should spend time in the game with your team. I think that the minute you stop, one of the reasons you're good at what you do, and one of the things I try hard to do, is you're still a practitioner, Keenan. You're a consultant, you do stuff, but you haven't gotten out of the game. True or false?
True. I mean,
right?
You can't.
Yeah.
You got a business to run.
And too many people, they think, I've become a manager, now I don't have to do that shit anymore, okay? And they get out. So I'm going to say, step one, make sure that you're blocking time to be in the game with them, okay? Now, the next thing I'll say is I've got a process that I think you'll like that's not that different than yours. I call it it's 3 S's, show, share, see. And so the first thing that you want to do when you're with them is if you have identified that there's an opportunity you want to improve something after you've had an observable moment, don't tell them what to do. Show them how it's done. Next opportunity, I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to show you how it's done. Okay. Now, I don't want you to do that all the time because that's not a coach. That's a crutch. Okay. We don't want to be a crutch. We've got to be a coach. But the next time out, now we're going to share it. You'll do this part, I'll do this part. The time after that, I'll do this part, you'll do that part. Then in the final time out, now you're just going to show me how it's done. I'm just going to sit back and see. I got my popcorn ready. I got a front row seat in the action, and I'm going to see it. And then we're going to break it down right after it's done. The show, share, see, what that implies is that we don't ever get out of being involved in the game. Okay. Now I love the other technology tools. My tool helps you prioritize and know where you should engineer. I love what you call the observable moments. Some of these call recording tools do a great job and let you have game film. I love the game film concept. But at the end of the day, there's something about being shoulder to shoulder with someone that's working for you, because that's how they know it's not Big Brother. You asked maybe the most important question. That Big Brother concept is real, Keenan. It's absolutely real. And you can give people bullshit and say that I'm in it to help you, but if you don't back it up with what you do, they're not going to ever take you for real on that.
I think you're right. You really have to back it up with actions that demonstrate you're there to improve them and make them better. And I say this all the time. One of the biggest early cultural shifts that we make, and then I have to really try to squeeze out of leadership, is coaching is not performance reviews.
Drop that, tweet that, Brandon. Tweet that
yes,
one.
I mean, it's like if you are treating these coaching sessions like performance reviews, this shit's going to crumble on itself in less than 90 days, because people don't want to show up daily or weekly to be told what they're doing wrong and why they're not doing anything right and why they're not where they need to be. They don't want that.
Preach. Well, let me tell you two other things it's not, Keenan. So you got the first one. It ain't performance reviews, so let's get that straight. It's also not a pipeline review. Okay, coaching is not a pipeline review. Okay, and that's, you've probably seen that. That's a very common. Okay.
Yes.
Third thing it's not is a deal structuring strategy session on how to win a deal. Yeah, that's helping win a deal, but that's not change. I'm still crutching it. I'm not changing their performance. So those three things. If your people that are watching this stop doing those three, no, don't stop, because those are important. Just don't call it coaching, right?
Yes.
Just don't call it coaching.
They're all too micro. If I have a problem closing deals, then we will talk about my macro horizontal skill sets that are presenting themselves in specific deals. We can use a deal in order to demonstrate where I'm exhibiting those skills or those deficiencies, but you're not here to work the deal for me. You've nailed it. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That is right. You and me are on the same page. And that's a huge mistake, especially that newer managers make. They think, oh, I'm here because I could do this, so I'm just going to do this, right? And that's an easy mistake that we make as new sales managers.
So I'm gonna tell you, I want you to tell me what your thoughts are on this. I believe that great coaching gets more out of people than people can get out of themselves.
True.
Okay.
Absolutely true. I can't add anything to that. That's a absolute universal truth that most people don't understand. I say the same thing a different way, Keenan. I ask a sales leader and ask myself as a sales leader, if I can't help a member of my team get farther than they could have got on their own, what value am I?
Yes. Okay, so where do the traditional sales coaches struggle with that piece? What's the biggest problem sales coaches have today, or sales managers have when trying to coach?
First is they have that wrong idea. Do the three things you and I already talked about. They'll make it a performance review. They'll tell them what they suck at, or they'll just take over. I'll tell you what, I mean, you get on a call, and as soon as you're on a call with someone, you take over, you've emasculated that rep. You've made it so that rep can't do anything with that person ever again. Those are two things that they always stop at. And then I think that the last is they just keep focusing on what you didn't do. And it's a huge problem. We focus on, in fact, I'm going to say it better than that. I just forget what I just said, Keenan. I got a better way of saying it. Most sales managers, they think that if they have an underperformer, I'm going to say this right, so hang in there with me, okay? They can't do what I did when I was a rep, so that means they're either dumb or lazy. That's what they assume. They're either dumb or lazy.
Okay.
And it's probably neither of them. It's probably neither of them. They just didn't have a leader yet help them figure out how. So one of my laws is you've got to connect before you correct, okay? And so we make a mistake because we assume they're either dumb or lazy. They either aren't as smart as I was, or they didn't work as hard as I did. They just don't have that skill yet. So we got to be in this world of intentional improvement. And if we define ourselves by the rate that they improve, not by how much they close, you'll find that you change your approach very quickly.
Okay. So I really like that. Connect before you correct. Awesome.
Yeah.
You also said something that triggered me that I think is embedded in the culture, and I want you to share your thoughts on this, is you just said sales leaders have that underperforming person and they think they're lazy or stupid. Why do we even attach the term underperformer to coaching? Because coaching is not about underperformance. I'll come back to this again.
Yeah.
Right? This is not about performance, whether you're top performer or bottom performer.
No.
This is about the specific, targeted, committed effort to elevate the game of each person on your team. Your number one performer and your number 299 performer. It's all it's individual. So thoughts?
No, I can't make it better. You just said it right, man. When you got a universal truth, just say thank you for saying it. Okay? I mean, I totally agree with you, Keenan. One of the big mistakes we make is we're going to coach the low performers. And what do they think the whole time, Keenan? Well, I can't wait till I get my numbers where they should be so this stuff can end. So he'll leave me alone. And the whole time, the people at the other end are saying, I guess I don't have, that's just one less meeting I have to have because I got my shit figured out. That's totally wrong, okay? We need to have Janice on our side, whether I'm the richest dude in Rome or the poorest dude in Rome, that I go to Janice saying, I want to get better from where I am. And the greatest leaders understand that, and they time block accordingly. In fact, I'm going to throw one thing out to you here, Keenan. I don't suggest that you ever segment your coaching time based on performance. I'm going to tell you one of the things that we do that we actually do different than others that I think you'll find interesting. We measure coachability in a team. We measure coachability of a person. And so we have coachability high and coachability low.
Coachability, yes, go.
Okay? So we suggest you should maximize your time with people that have high coachability factors and spend less time with people that have low coachability factors because you're tapped, okay?
Yep.
And we say everyone has equal access to your time, but not everyone gets equal time. You got to earn it, baby. We want the coaching to be so good that everybody wants more of it. And if you are responding to coaching and you have high coachability, you'll get more of me. If you have less coachability, that's your way of giving me the middle finger and saying, leave me alone, okay? And fair enough. If you don't want it, then we'll have a different kind of conversation.
Yes. I am so glad you did this because coachability is a huge one for me, and I'm so locked in on where we are, I would have moved past it. So let's talk about this idea of coachability for a second. I argue that if you have someone who's not coachable, you figure out an exit plan as quickly as possible. You don't ever hire someone who's not coachable. And if you don't have coachability as part of your selection criteria, then you better add it there quickly. What I want to ask you is, how do you address coachability? How do you hire and how do you identify it? And how do you help folks make sure they've got a team full of coachable people? And I'll come back.
Those four questions.
Yeah, I know.
Those are four questions, brother. I love it. Okay, let's start with how do we address coachability? So we do three things, and I'll be interested in how you do that. The first one's easy. We believe that everyone, when they have a strategy or coaching session, it should lead with a goal, not a performance goal. It's a improvement. What am I going to change? If I'm not, again, because you and me both agreed that as a leader, our job is to help them consistently be trying to improve better than they would have on their own.
Yep.
So when we leave, we should have some kind of a goal of what we're going to do different between now and next time we meet, okay? We track that, and either you do it or you don't. That's real easy. Either I go from 5 calls to 20 or I don't. You with me? That's easy.
Yep.
It's a yes or a no. And I can do that with anything. If you make anything the right kind of goal, you can have it be I did it or I didn't. So our first thing that we measure is, when they set coaching goals, do they hit them? And we track those. And so you're going to find that I go to one side of, I am very responsive to my coaching goals, or I'm not. That's the first thing. The second thing we do is we track when they hit their coaching goal, does it create an impact? So back to the call goal. The real reason we wanted the calls to go up is because we need more new opportunities. So when I got to my 20, did it give me more new opportunities? That's a yes or a no. So did it create an impact? So did I do it? Did it create an impact? And finally, after I got off that coaching goal and I went to something different, did it stick? Meaning, did I stay at 20 or thereabouts, or did I go back to 5 or thereabouts? And so we use those three things. Do you do it? Does it make an impact? Does it stick? And that gives a leader really good insight, because I could get to 20, because you know how that is, Keenan. Oh, you want 20 calls? I'll give you 20 calls and then some. I'll call whoever and leave messages. You know what I'm saying? I'll check a box. Having impact and stickiness gets us past just, did you do it? So I'll stop there. That's how we first measure coachability. Does that answer the question, or do you want to?
Yeah, no, keep going. Yeah, that's good. I mean, that tells you how you measure if someone's actually doing it. I don't know if it measures coachability yet, but keep going. Yep. Because I define
Then we
coachability.
can-
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you
I
go.
define coachability as someone's openness and willingness to accept constructive criticism, feedback, and change. They're willing to change based on that feedback. That's how I define coachability.
And I like that. And that's why we don't just say, did they do it? That's why we measure impact and stickiness, because that's how I know, did they really change who they are, okay? And so otherwise, it's hard to measure. If you got a better way, I want to learn it. But that impact and stickiness really tells me those things. Am I open? Did I do it? And then did I change? You're right. That change means, did it change my outcomes? But also, did I also change who I am as a person in my regular cadence? So that's what we look at. Now, here's what's interesting. I agree that if they are not coachable, you shouldn't hold on to them. But there's one caveat. I look at it this way. I have outcomes can be good or bad, and my response to coaching can be good or bad. So if my outcomes are weak and my response to coaching is also weak, so I'm not hitting where I want to go and I don't want to change, I call that a toxic teammate. Say, get them out.
Yes,
Work
that's behavior. That's behaviors results.
Yeah.
On the 4 quadrant behavior results. Not exhibiting the behaviors, not getting the results. Get them out.
Next, outcomes weak, but I'm responding well to coaching. I call them part of the future. Part of the future. Okay? And they're not part of the future because they're hitting their number. It's because of how they're willing to change.
The right behaviors.
If they're hitting their numbers and they really aren't responding well to coaching, I call them an independent. Okay. Now, then I have to really look at their process, because then there's a whole other conversation that we won't get into right now. Those people still need coaching, but it's a different kind of coaching. I'm hitting my number. I don't want to change much. That's a yellow area. It's not a green or a red. That's a yellow for me. Okay. Because they are hitting their number. And so I do worry about it for other reasons.
Here's the interesting piece with those people, right? And I agree with this. Is where I guess I like the idea of yellow, right? Here's the problem.
Okay.
The minute the world when I look at coaching, I look at it universally, right? Not just in my job, because rarely is somebody coachable in one part of their life and not coachable in another. It's generally a universal trait, right? Now, I don't believe someone's not coachable or coachable their whole life, but where they are in their life at that time. So when you get to those people who are making their number, but they're not coachable, the minute something changes, those people become my biggest freaking liability, because they don't respond to the coaching that they're going to need to change with the environment, right?
For instance, we have a new product. We have a new partner. We have new messaging. Yeah, you got a problem there. For sure you do.
Yes. Or here's one. The economy starts to decline, so we need to do things differently. Oh, no, I'm doing it the same way. I don't have time for you to do it the same way. You're not doing it. Or
I want it to be like 2007 again, right?
Yeah. Well, it ain't. Yeah, so I lean on the side of I don't want to have to solve that problem down the road. And I believe it has a toxic impact on the organization when I have someone, because when somebody's resistant to coaching and you start to implement a coaching culture, they dig in even deeper. And so then they start being a weed in my front lawn, right? It's like, look, I get it. You're number 2 on the team. I get it. But if you aren't man or woman enough, here's the other piece, right? And this is your show, but I'm going on a rant. Sorry. I also believe when someone's not coachable, there are some systemic personal issues, right? There's some self-esteem issues.
Fair.
There's some self-esteem issues. There's lack of self-awareness. There's a lot of shit going on. And I don't want that shit in my organization, because it may be in a tight, neat bag right now, but that bag eventually is going to be punctured, and that shit's going to leak out all over my yard, and I don't want it. So open it up and be man or woman enough. I got some problems, and you can coach me out of it because I want to get better because of it. Or get out. Get out. I don't need that bag punctured in my front yard.
I love the attitude. I love the approach. I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm just saying, as a leader, they aren't the instant outs that the toxics are. That's where I am. They aren't the instant outs that the toxics are. Then my final one is hitting their number, but they're also still responding to coaching. They're stars. Here's why I like to have that independent level, Keenan, because I can coach them a little differently. Like, for instance, I have a lot of times where high performers say, why am I not getting promoted? They'll answer that. Why am I not getting promoted? Okay. The answer is you're resistant to change. You're not coachable. Okay. So if you can't be accepting change, then I can't have you leading people, because our business is going to change all the time. It's going to always change, and I got to have my leaders be the face of change. I've seen a lot of success getting independents to realize they got to change their ways because they want to advance their careers. So anyway.
So, what I love about that is you're basically saying the biggest coaching opportunity for you is to be coached.
Yes.
And if I
That's
can't
right.
get you to accept coaching, then, and so I'm in the same place. I just found, unfortunately, there's a place people just won't accept it, and I have less patience for it. But yes, I like how you did that.
And we shouldn't be. Yeah, we shouldn't be patient. You and me are, yeah, I agree with you. That's why I love having this conversation with you, because, Keenan, honestly, I don't think there's that many people who really are focused on coaching like you are, and that's why this is killer conversation for everyone to start listening to. I tell you, it's a muscle that has to be built. Just like years ago, people started working on sales skills. There was a time where guys like you, people said, oh, Keenan's great at sales because he's just charismatic, he's naturally gifted.
Yeah.
That's probably offensive to you. It's very offensive to you, I bet.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Because you work hard on your game. True or false? You work hard on your game.
Big time, big time. I just found a book I got like 20 years ago, 18 years ago when I first started selling, because I was like, oh, I got to get better. And so I was like, oh, I remember this was one of the first books I read. My whole wall's filled with books, sales books that I had before I was a consultant, just to get better.
Yes. Same with coaching. Leadership and coaching is a skill you can improve and you can develop, just like sales skills. And most of the time we don't realize that for what it is. And when we do, the impact you have is no longer just on yourself and your quota. It now is almost impossible to measure because it's affecting so many others.
All right. Hey, real quick, we're going to take a quick break here, not a break for sponsorship, a break for questions, because Ben Martin has asked a question, and he asked this question of you, Rob. He says, first off, this is great, so I love that. Glad you're enjoying it, Ben. Secondly, he goes,
good, Ben.
What is Rob's definition of coaching and mentorship?
Okay. Well, my first definition of coaching is going to be the same, Ben. And Ben, thanks for the question. It's a great one. It's the process of intentional improvement. And that's why intentional improvement, and I love what Keenan calls it, deliberate improvement. I call it this process of engineering it, because there's four things. It's got to be consistent. It's got to be predictive, which means it's process-oriented, not outcomes-oriented, which you and I talked about already. 3, it's got to be about leveling up. And 4, it's got to be about having how come I just had a brain fart? It's after leveling up, it's collaboration. Now, mentoring. If you have a shitty sales leader, I got to be real careful how to say this, Keenan. Okay? You know where I'm going to, don't you? Okay? If you have a shitty sales leader, it could take years to overcome the stuff that they don't teach you, not to mention the bad things that they let you continue to do.
And or what they ask you to do.
Yes. So, Ben, it's an awesome question. So what's my definition of coaching? It's the process of intentional improvement. You've got to have someone that helps you be consistent, someone that helps you be process-oriented. If you're not process-oriented, get process-oriented. 3rd, don't say, what do I suck at? Say, what's the next best thing that will help me? And then 4, have a mentor that collaborates with you. When you're looking for your next job, make sure you find someone that when you're interviewing them, not them interviewing you, what's their approach to coaching? How are they going to help you level up? What are the things that they do for themselves? What's their cadence in helping you? And my advice, find people in your space that you can learn from. That's huge. I mean, my success comes from 2 mentors. I can tell you who they are. There are 2 guys that invested in me. One of them is now a partner in my business. And if I didn't have those people early in my career, Keenan, I don't know if you have a similar story, my success is different. Yeah.
I've had a number of mentors. I found also that sometimes you got to go find a mentor. So if I could take what, well, way to go, Ben Martin. If I could take what you said and just sort of add a Keenan spin or narrow it down, if I get it wrong, correct me. A coach is someone in an official capacity whose job it is to help you get better in your role. So Bill Parcells is my coach on the Patriots. Yep. My sales manager is my coach, and my sales director is my coach. A mentor is someone who provides coaching and leadership in a non-authoritative role. They are not your boss. They don't have to do it. It's not their job to do it. Sort of like informal and formal leadership. That's how I would break it down.
That's a really bad. I misunderstood the question. I apologize. That's right. That's exactly right. A coach does it because they have to, or the mentor does it because they love you, right? Now, doesn't mean a coach doesn't love you. Hopefully a good leader is going to end up loving you.
But yes,
that's right.
That's how we define the 2.
That's right. Great definition. I love that.
Okay, we're getting more questions here, so we'll fly with these. Keenan or Rob, what is the time frame to coach your coworker, i.e. 30 days or months or yes?
Always.
Yeah. So what I like to say is, well, do you want to add more to that, or?
Yeah, let me tell you. Well, I think that maybe he was asking the time frame. You should always coach. I think that you should set short-term coaching goals. I think that if you set long ones, hey, this year let's work on what the hell does that even mean, right? We should have short-term, very focused coaching goals that we might reset next month. But I think that you can see the impact in coaching within one sales cycle. So I always tell people to look for it inside a sales cycle. If you have a good coach, we should be able to break it down that inside a sales cycle, we should have metrics. Maybe my sales cycle time got faster. Maybe my deal size got bigger. Maybe it's a product, one product I got two, right? I would start looking at things in terms of sales cycle because it makes it easier to get excited about coaching.
Okay. I like what you said. Brian, here's my 2 cents on this. What I call is creating what I call coaching cadences. And so I like to have, usually I found 3. You have 3 different levels of types of coaching. So the first one is tactical stuff. That's the stuff he's talked about. Let's say I don't have I'm not making it, well, I don't say not making it. Tactical stuff, my sales selling skills, right? So it could be how I engage with customers, how I overcome objections, how I do my prospecting, how I do my closing. And I call those tactical. So I would have a sales cadence to address observable moments for those particular things once a week or every 2 weeks. Then for my next part of my cadence, I would have, that would be for what I call the broader personal development, my leadership skills, my collaboration skills, my coaching ability, those things that are more broad and less tactical, but nonetheless super important, right? In other words, if you're a real jerk at the office, but you're doing really well at other things selling, I want to be able to coach you on that as well, but that's not something you coach on every week. I'm not going to have a conversation with you every week on your collaboration skills. So I would do that every 6 to 8 weeks. And then sometimes, depending on the position, there may be even bigger ones. It could be, let's say, broader sales strategy and territory planning. It could be something else. But I like to break them down to the type of coaching and then create set schedules to leverage observable moments for each of those that are constantly going on. Every week for the tactical, every 8 weeks for the broader, every quarter, every half year for the other. That's how I like to do it.
That's really good advice. Take that to the bank. That's great advice.
All right, so this is good. The questions are flying in, team. I love it. I love interaction. I'm a counter puncher. So thanks, Brian. Melissa Smith has a question here, and I love where she's going, and I think, Rob, you are going to get way too excited about this one. It's a long question. I'm going to synthesize it, but how do I discuss the lack of leadership skills I witness, the demotivation I experience, any engagement with the leaders? So I think she's asking about coaching the coaches, I think.
Yeah.
I think. Hold on. How do I discuss the lack of skills I witness in the demotivation? So let's do this both from, I don't know if she's asking from an individual contributor, lack up, or from a director looking down on, so let's check it from both angles, right?
So it sounds to me like she's saying, I'm witnessing this, and I'm assuming that she's an individual contributor, but you're right. We can't make that assumption. That's like the first law of sales. Don't ever make an assumption, right? But yeah, that's a tough one. If it's the individual contributor, yeah, that's a tough question, Melissa. The thing that I would do is I'd try and turn it around in maybe a little more of a positive.
She is the individual contributor. All right, sorry, she is the individual contributor. Okay. And she has one question. She goes, engage me in a discussion of my commission with mention of me. No, I know you are the breadwinner for your family, while in a doctor's waiting room on a cold call, waiting for the provider to meet us. So it sounds like she's ready to go into the doctor's office to sell something, and he's pounding her over the head with, hey, you're the breadwinner. You don't want to screw this up. What do you do with that?
So stupid. Yeah, that's a hard question. Okay, that's on a lot of levels. I think that you're going to have to find a way to tell them what kind of coaching you want. Sounds like this is someone that thinks it's a motivation problem. And then, by the way, how can we miss that, Keenan? One of the biggest mistakes, they always think it's a motivation problem, and they just got to keep motivating you all the time, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I disagree with that. We should have said that. My bad for not saying that. Anyway, I think, Melissa, this is a tough one. I think that you're going to have to let them know, hey, this is what I need. I'm really fired up. I am the breadwinner. I'm really glad you're aware of that. You don't need to remind me of that. What I need are things that maybe it is tactical. I don't know. Maybe it's here are the things where my deals stall, or here's the things that will help me get in front of more doctors, or I don't know how to get over this objection. This is the thing that when I go call on it, my drug causes weight gain or whatever, or I can't sleep at night. How do you overcome these things? Maybe you need to get a little more specific because this person has clearly got a prioritization problem on what we should coach to. He thinks that it's just a motivation one. That's why I'm saying that, which goes back to, Keenan, leaders make the assumption that either we're dumb or we don't work hard enough. He thinks it's you're not ready. Don't screw this up. Well, thanks. Now That's like the worst I've ever heard. That's horrible.
I feel bad.
What do you think,
I'll tell you what, Melissa, why don't you send your boss's boss ex-voyant's information and the sales guy's information. Maybe we can come in and help your boss's boss understand he's got some bad leaders and fix that for you.
We'll double team him, Keenan. We'll double team him.
Yes, amen.
And maybe you have opportunities to talk to other people, but the best, most constructive thing you'll do is that you can do is in your one-on-one with them say, this is what I need. Can you help me with this? Because one of the things I've also learned, even the shitty ones, they want to be good at their job too, right, Keenan? They want to be good. And
most of the time, yes.
Yeah, most. That's the half full side of me, Keenan, not the half empty side. That's my half full side.
I know, I've gotten so negative on, and it's out of love. Like I used to, like everybody's good and everybody wants to be good, and I've just learned that's not true. Everybody has the ability to be good, but I don't know what it is, whether it's America, whether it's first world problems, whether it's the competing with the Joneses. Too many of us now get locked into this idea that it's just too hard, or they're scared, or they're discontent where they are, and they shut down, and they don't really want to be really good. They just want to get by.
Hey, can I add one thing, Keenan, to that for Melissa?
Bring it.
That's a super important question. A bad leader is a reason to look for a new job. I said it. Okay, I said it. My wife was a drug rep for a long time. For 17 years, she worked for a lot of the big drug companies. And switching a job because of a bad leader changed her life. She had a 10 times better life, much more success. And if you've tried and you can't get what you want, it's a reason to switch jobs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is smoking. I'm having a blast here. We got another question. Melissa, you're welcome. I'm glad that was helpful. I got Carl Ortmans. And he says, we were about to go there, and we didn't, and I'm glad he brought us back. Way to go, Carl. How do you coach the coaches? Specifically when you have a leader that joins a call and jumps into the opportunity to run it and dismiss what the A he has already done.
Another great question. So how does the rep coach the coaches, or who should coach the coaches? I'll make sure I understand this wrong. Right,
so I'm going to say I don't know, because it was how do you coach coaches. Let's go with the director of sales coaching a manager of sales, a sales manager. And Carl, if you want the other one, let us know. But I think your answer to that one would be similar to Melissa's. So let's go with coaching the coaches.
Yes. Okay. So coaching the coaches, it's the same thing. So I always start, the first thing I always do with our process, which is not that different than yours, which is cool, we always start with a role audit. So I found, Keenan, that there are 4 levers that you can pull that will make performance grow. It's the aptitude of the people you hire, their level of motivation, skills they possess, and then what they think their job is. What's the role? This helps salespeople succeed, those 4 things. It also helps leaders succeed. And so if the director of sales or the vice president of sales, the first thing that I always want to talk to when I'm working with the head of sales is, what's your role? And it's interesting because he wants their sales leaders to coach, but quite often he doesn't have coaching those leaders as his job. And I say the same thing to him that we say to those other leaders. If you can't help your sales leaders, your functional sales leaders out in the field be better at what they do, then what value are you? And so there's a whole nother process. And so that comes down to a role. Role perception drives success in anything that's performance related. It always starts with role. Everybody thinks it's skills or motivation. No. Role drives how you spend your time and what tools you use. It's the fastest way to get lift is make sure that you're doing more high-value activities and fewer low-value activities. So that's the way, is make sure they understand their role as coaches. And it's not that different, but the tools need to be tweaked a little bit. It's how much time do you spend and how do you prioritize, and are you creating observable moments for your coaches?
Okay. So I like that. Now, what I'd like to add, and then I'd like to use this to go into the last part of the conversation, and I like your 2 cents. I like with starting with the role, and I think you're right there. One of the things that I encourage organizations to do is once you have the role, I want you to identify what is critical to success in the role, right? So if I'm coaching coaches, then leadership is one of the things that I'm going to coach you on. I'm going to look for leadership observable moments, right? I may then also want to look at motivation. I may want to look at business acumen, depending on what the role requires, right? So if you liken it to football, when I have an offensive lineman and I have a quarterback, right, I am not looking at the same things because they have different roles. With the quarterback, I am looking at time, ability to read a defense, his release times, his his sevens to drop, his ability to notice shifts, all that, right? Alignment, I'm looking at his footwork. I'm looking at his time off the ball, right? And I know what to look at or look for observable moments before I start looking. And so I think that is something that doesn't change. At the individual rep level, I should have a list of, at a bare minimum, 10 observable types of moments that are critical to that role for the individual contributor, and I want to look for those. I want to be structured. I don't want to be all over the map because I'll miss stuff. And then for the sales manager, I want to have a specific set of observable moments. I want to look for them. I want to look for this, that, and the other thing. What are your thoughts on that, and how do people do that?
So we believe, and I believe, what you said is dead on. And you can create a skill to success model for a leader as well, okay? And that's your thing about observable moments just for leaders. That's a great way to put it, but we build a skill to success model for the leaders, okay? So you've got to learn exactly right. You and I are both, we both like the Patriots. We like Tom Brady. Tom Brady's, yeah, man, go. Tom House is Tom Brady's quarterback coach, okay? And I'll tell you what's interesting. My son is a quarterback in high school, and he has had the opportunity to be coached by Tom House. Tom Brady's coach.
Ooh.
Super cool experience, okay? And when you talked about the observable moments, that dude knows what to look for well before it starts. You know, velocity, he says, comes from the ground up. It's not your arm, it's where your feet go, okay? Shit like that. And watching how someone can coach that person and then coach my son, because my son's quarterback coach came to this, changed that whole thing. We have to have that same skill to success model. I love the idea of making it their own version of observable moments. But the same thing, you want to make sure you're having consistency and cadence there as well, and it's also process-oriented. If it's not process-oriented, you're going to end up being results-oriented. You're going to say shit like, well, only 40% of your team's hitting quota. What are you going to do about it?
Yes.
That's not coaching.
No,
okay?
No. And dude, you so nailed it. Maybe we come back and we have a shorter episode on how to build and define the skills and the observable moments, because look, I always come, the greatest impact to my sales leadership and sales coaching methodology was my experience skiing, right? Like I was a self-taught skier. I could ski my ass off, but when I decided to become a ski instructor, they blew me away with the depth. I mean, I don't even have the time to really illustrate to you the depth of knowledge that these cats put into teaching skiing. And one of the things they've done is they reduced skiing to 4, count them, 4 movements.
I love it.
That's it.
I love
and
it.
The higher skiing, everything comes from skiing in those. One is fore aft, another one is rotation, another one is foot-to-foot pressure, and the other one is edging, right? So when I have movement analysis, I only have to look for 4 things. Now, underneath those, there could be a whole bunch of things that I need to look at. Yep. Counter rotation, shoulder. I mean, I won't bore you with all that. But they realized after years and years and years, hey, fuck, this isn't that complicated. 4 things. And so now I know when I go to watch you ski, I know where to look. And the better I get,
that's right.
If I see a behavior, I'm like, oh, that's a foot-to-foot pressure, so I start looking there. We need that for sales.
And let me tell you what I think a start is there, Keenan. Number of opportunities, average deal size, win rate, and how fast you are. Those are 4 things that each have a shitload of things inside all of those. But if you can look and understand how those 4 things interact, your job as a coach changes. So I'm with you. And by the way, I want to add one thing. Just like you said, you know what to look for. And we said that a functional sales leader needs to be in the game with their reps. I do share C, okay? The head of sales should be sometimes sitting in coaching sessions, and they can help. They can share C as well. They ought to be able to demonstrate that, because I believe that's exactly what you said. I love your analogy of skiing. You know, come ski in Salt Lake sometime, because Vail's awesome, but we got some stuff here too, brother. Okay, and we need the sales leaders to be able to demonstrate how to do the sales thing. We need the head of sales to be able to demonstrate how to do the coaching thing too.
Yeah, no question. I think I don't think enough people have grabbed on to sales coaching, but inside of that, I think it's even worse for sales coaching. That's even less robust. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, my man.
Yes.
Well, this has been fantastic. Closing out, what do you take 2 minutes? Give us what we know. What did we miss? Where should we go in the last few minutes?
Hey, I believe this. If you're a sales leader, you should define yourself by how much you help people improve. Products are copied almost instantly. As soon as you have a good product, someone's going to copy it. As soon as you have a pricing model, they're going to copy it. It's so competitive that your competitive advantage is never with your product. It's rarely with, not never, it's rarely a product. The most defensible competitive advantage comes on how you develop your team. It will increase retention, it will increase engagement, and ultimately it's going to increase outcomes. So if you want to say, what can I be improving myself in as a sales leader? What's my intentional improvement? Commit to developing the coaching skills. Just like Keenan said when he was developing his sales skills, he's got all those books. I'm not here to tell you to buy all the coaching books. Work with guys like Keenan. Use technologies like the one we built at Exploit. And if you surround yourself with the right tools and the right training, you can make how you lead your most defensible competitive advantage, because people will never want to stop working for you. They'll stay with you forever. And you're going to watch and you're going to find that leadership is not something that just people are born with. It's something that they develop.
So what you're saying is that when I say to you, what do you think of the term build coaching culture? What do you think of that?
It's a culture where we all get coaching opportunities and coaching moments. It's not something that's reserved for the low performers. It's not something we do when we're in trouble. It's something that we do all the time. And I'm going to finish with my sports analogy. So I'm a huge basketball fan, Keenan. It's my favorite sport by far, okay? And I hate Duke. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. I'm so happy Carolina won this year.
Who?
Duke.
Oh,
Duke.
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
North Carolina.
I'm a Carolina guy, okay? The good guys won this year. But the number one winningest men's basketball coach of all time is Mike Krzyzewski. True or false? He has the most wins.
True.
He gets world-class basketball players, doesn't he? He gets guys that have probably, they're some of the best in the world, and arguably some of them might be prima donnas that have been told that they're the greatest there ever was from the time they were little, okay? When he calls timeout in a game, do those people turn around and give him the middle finger and say, I got this, coach? No.
Nope.
They call timeout. They run to the sideline. And what does Krzyzewski do? He doesn't read the box scores, Keenan. He doesn't tell them how many points they have. He doesn't tell them what's happening in other games. He pulls out his grease board and he draws up the future. He draws up the next play. And people judge how well the team does in part by how well they use timeouts. We have a limited number of timeouts. Use them well. We track timeouts and how much we score after them in basketball. My question is, are we using our timeouts to draw up the next play, and how often are we scoring after we come out of timeout? That's my analogy on coaching. And they go there because of the coaching, not in spite of it.
Boom, 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 boom. That was good stuff, my man. That was very good stuff. Thank you.
Thanks so much, bro.
I don't think we have any more questions.
Doing this.
Yes, me too. Let's more people need to get hip to this. So this will be live, or not live, this will be published on YouTube, and you'll be able to come back here to go to webinar and see it. It'll also be on our website at salesguide.com under the Word. Actually, I think under the Word. We will push and promote it. If you haven't, please go to xvoyant.com, check them out, see what they're all about. Make sure you connect with Rob on Twitter, LinkedIn. He's very active socially, as any progressive sales leader should be these days. I want to thank Carl, Brian, Melissa, Ben for their questions. That was dope. This is episode 38 of The Word, where we actually get down to the nitty and gritty and do it in the 21st century style, because we have no time for that old school shit. So, guys, thank you, everybody. Thank you very, very much. Rob, you were fantastic.
Thanks, Keenan. My pleasure. Thank you.
Don't think it could have gone any better, baby.
Hey, buddy. Thanks so much. I can't wait to do it again sometime soon.
Yes, we will. We will. We will. So with that, everybody, you know what I'm going to say. Peace. I'm out.